NATO forces are landing in Greenland right now, and they are not there for Russia, they are there because of Donald Trump. France, Sweden, and Germany are deploying to Greenland, and it's exposing something shocking about America's position in the world. Let me paint you a picture. It's freezing in Greenland, the kind of cold that doesn't just bite your skin, it rewires your thought. And right now, in that ice-covered corner of the world, something is happening that should make every American pause. Because planes are landing, ships are moving, special forces are arriving, not from enemies, but from allies. France, Sweden, Germany, Denmark, Canada, and other European partners. And the reason they are showing up isn't Russia, it isn't China, it's something we have never seen before in modern history. They are showing up because they don't trust the United States, or more specifically, they don't trust the man who wants to drag the United States into a new era of territorial conquest, Donald Trump. And what makes this situation almost surreal is the way Trump's people talk about it. Like it's normal, like it's a real estate deal. One of Trump's political picks, someone who's supposed to represent America on the world stage, is openly joking about the United States annexing Canada and annexing Greenland, and then casually turning Iceland into the next US state. Like we are collecting countries the way kids collect trading cards. And I want you to understand this: when powerful people joke about conquest, the world doesn't laugh, the world prepares. Because the world has a memory. This is the kind of language that used to start wars, and that first response came from Denmark, not with drama, but with strategy. Denmark called for allies, and allies answered. France confirmed it publicly. President Macron announced that French forces are joining Danish-led military exercises in Greenland. The operation is being framed as training, but everyone knows what it really is. It's a message, a diplomatic way of saying touch Greenland and you don't deal with Greenland alone. And then Sweden joined in, Swedish officers arriving right now as we speak, not for a photo opportunity, not for headlines, but for presence. For the simple reason that Greenland doesn't want to become the next Trump project. And if you zoom out, what you are watching isn't a military event, it's a political earthquake. Because Greenland is not just a piece of land, its identity, its sovereignty. It's a people saying we are not for sale. And I'm going to be honest, some Americans still don't get why this is such a big deal. So let me explain it in one sentence. When your closest allies starts moving troops into position because they fear you, your country's reputation is collapsing in real time. Because Danish veterans, people who fought alongside the United States, are now speaking with a kind of heartbreak you can almost feel enough through the screen. These are men who were willing to die wearing the same mission patch as American soldiers. After 9/11, when NATO invoked Article 5, Denmark stood shoulder to shoulder with the US, and Denmark lost soldiers, real lives, real families shattered. And now the reward they get from Trump's America is threats, pressure, annexation talk. That's not leadership, that's betrayal. And Greenland leaders are not confused about what they stand. They have said it clearly: if we ever had to choose, we choose Denmark. Not because Denmark is perfect, but because Denmark respects Greenland's sovereignty. Because Denmark doesn't talk about Greenland like a prize. Greenland message is simple: we are Greenland, we decide our future. And honestly, that's the entire story right there. A small nation with a huge strategic location being forced to remind a superpower that human beings are not chess pieces. Now in the US, even some officials are starting to admit how dangerous this has become. One senator described it bluntly: in a short amount of time, Trump has damaged America so badly that European allies are now positioning troops in Greenland as protection against US. That sentence should haunt every American, because it means the United States is no longer viewed as a stabilizer. It's being viewed as a risk. and now you can actually see it. Footage coming in of military aircraft landing in Nuke, personnel arriving, troops being transported, and you can feel the tension under the surface. Because yes, they are calling it training, but everyone understands what training means when it's happening during a crisis. It means we are ready and the European Union is tapped into. The president of the European Commission made the European Union's position clear. Greenland belongs to Greenlanders, not the United States, not Trump, not any outsider. And she emphasized that Denmark and Greenland are the only ones who get to decide their future. That's it. No deals behind closed doors, no pressure, no tactics. Now here where the story takes a darker turn. Because on American media, a question was asked that tells you everything about the mindset. A host actually floated the idea like, well, what if the US just paid each Greenland citizen $500,000? Think about how insane that is. It's not diplomacy, it's not security policy. It's basically saying, how much money would it take to buy your country? And Denmark foreign minister shut it down immediately. He essentially said, you can't just throw money at people and erase their identity. And also, let's be real, America isn't going to fund a Scandinavian level welfare system in Greenland. You won't even provide a Scandinavian welfare in America, so no. Greenland isn't going to trade their sovereignty for a fantasy offer from a political movement that can't even keep basic promises at home. Then Denmark foreign minister said something that should have been front page news everywhere. He said the ambition of the United States under Trump is to conquer Greenland. And Denmark has red lines. He reminded everyone, this isn't the 1800s. You trade with countries, you do not trade human beings. And he talked about meetings with key US figures, where Denmark made one thing clear: Greenland's self-determination is not negotiable. Now the host pushed again and asked, so you don't think America would invade, right? And Denmark's answer was careful but heavy. He said he hopes not, because if the United States invades Greenland, NATO is finished. Finished because NATO cannot survive if the biggest member becomes the aggressor. And the craziest part, Denmark is still trying to be diplomatic. They are still saying we share concerns about Arctic security. They are still willing to cooperate. They are still talking about working groups and agreements. But they are also doing the one thing you do when you are dealing with a threat: you prepare. And that's why it's not just special forces arriving. Denmark is also moving aircraft, ships, equipments, because Greenland is not a joke. Greenland is not a meme, and Greenland is not Trump's next headline. This is where the world draws the line. Now let's zoom out for a second, because Greenland isn't the only place where Donald Trump is looking weak. It's happening everywhere, and what's wild is that it keeps following the same pattern. Trump talks big, promises the world, threatens everyone, and then when it's time to actually stand for something, he either folds or he sides with the strong man. Let me show you what I mean. Today, Maria Corina Machado, one of the biggest pro-democracy opposition leaders connected to Venezuela, is scheduled to meet Donald Trump in the Oval Office. That meeting alone is already a movement, because for years Venezuelans who want freedom, who want real elections, who want the regime out, they have been searching for powerful allies. They have been searching for a door that might open, and they believed seriously that Trump might be that door. But what happens right before her meeting? Trump does what authoritarians always do. He takes the call from the other sides first. A brutal figure connected to the Venezuelan regime, Delcy Rodriguez. And if you understand how the Putin playbook works, you have already seen this move before, because Putin does the same thing. Anytime Trump is about to meet someone like Zelensky, there's always a warm-up call with the dictator energy first. A private movement, a little softening, a little alignment. And then Trump walks into the next meeting already titled. And this is exactly what it looks like. Mikado shows up hoping for support, hoping for pressure on the regime, hoping for democracy, but Trump is not building a future for Venezuelan people. He is building relationship with power and not democratic power, authoritarian power. And let's be honest, Mikado has gone out of her way to play the game. She tried to speak to Trump's base. She tried to speak his language. She tried to show loyalty. But Trump doesn't respect loyalty. He respects leverage, and the authoritarian side has leverage because they can offer him things he actually wants. Oil deals, minerals, trade arrangements, personal wins that looks good in a headline. So Trump makes his choice and then he posts it. He announces he had a great call with Delcy Rodriguez. He says they are making tremendous progress. He talks about stabilizing Venezuela like he's the hero in the story, and he lists the real topics they discussed: oil, mineral, trade, national security. In other words, not election, not freedom, not protecting activists, not stopping arrest, not stopping death squads, just business. Then he tops it off with the kind of fantasy sentence Trump loves. This partnership will be spectacular for all. Venezuela will soon be great and prosperous again. That sounds nice until you realize what it actually means. It means Trump is propping up a system that survives by fear. He's giving oxygen to the people who use violence to hold power. And Delcy Rodriguez responds publicly too. She calls it mutual respect. She frames it as a productive agenda, and you can hear it between the lines. She knows she's safe now. She knows Trump is not coming for the regime. He just handed them legitimacy. And to every Venezuelan who believed America might stand with them, this is the message they just received. You are on your own. Now I want to transition to Iran because it's the same weakness, just a different location. Trump told the Iranian people, the protester, the family, that if the regime continued killing, America would respond. He made it sound like a promise, a threat, a guarantee. And in Iran, people are dying. Nobody even knows the real number because the internet is blacked out. It could be thousands. Some estimates go far beyond that, but the point is it's not a rumor, it's a bloodshed. And so far, at least as of this recording, Trump hasn't delivered what he claimed he would do. And apparently his own military advisors are telling him there isn't a clean one strike and it's over option. There isn't a perfect button you press that collapses the regime overnight, because real war doesn't work like a tweet. War doesn't follow campaign slogans. War is messy, war is unpredictable, and now Trump is stuck because he promised action. But reality doesn't come up with a simple victory screen, and instead of being honest, he says something else. He goes on camera and says he's been told on good authority that the killing have stopped, that the executions have stopped. That's it all claiming down. And maybe that's true, maybe it's not. But here's the real problem. When you base your worldview on someone told me instead of intelligence, proof, and accountability, you become easy to manipulate. That's the weakness, that's the gap, that's where dictators win. Now let's go to China, because while Trump is picking fights with allies and fumbling moral leadership, other countries are making moves that reshape the global economy. Canada's Prime Minister just landed in Beijing, and the message was polite, but it carried a knife. He basically said Canada and China have created prosperity together and they are ready to build a new partnership for the future. And then he mentioned the challenges of today. Let me translate that into plain English. The challenge of today is Donald Trump. The challenge of today is America becoming unreliable. The challenge of today is the US turning relationships into threats. And when Canada starts warming up to China more openly, that's not just politics, that's trade routes, that's manufacturing decision, that's jobs, that's factories, that's the future of who builds what. Because imagine this, Canadian factories start taking Chinese EV deals more seriously. China brings electric vehicle production into Canada. Canada's economy grows from it. And meanwhile, America manufacturing suffers, American auto dominance weakens, and the US loses even more leverage because the closest partner it has is building alternate supply chain. This is what America first looks like in real life. It doesn't make America stronger, it makes America isolated. It pushes allies to find other doors. And when those doors open, they don't always open back. China could also ease restrictions on Canadian goods, canola, oil, major trade items, and suddenly Canada has options. They don't have to tolerate chaos from the White House because they can pivot. And do you see how this connects back to Greenland? Trump threatens Canada like it's a joke. He talks about acquiring allies like property, and meanwhile Canada is saying, okay, cool, we will build without you. This is the real cost of weak leadership, not just embracement, economic consequences, strategic consequences. Now, one of the most interesting moments in this whole story came from an unlikely place. Even on Fox, even on that stage, you had someone saying the quiet part out loud. Jessica Tarlov pointed out what's obvious to anyone watching reality. A pan-European presence is backing Greenland, German involvement, French involvement. If NATO collapses, Putin benefits more than anyone else. Because NATO is what blocks Putin from expanding freely. NATO is the wall, and Trump is swinging a hammer at that wall because of ego, because of control, because he wants to be obeyed, not respected. Denmark is saying no, Greenland is saying no, France is saying no, Sweden is saying no, the European Union is saying no. And when the world has to tell America no, it means America is no longer acting like a leader, it's acting like a bully. And bullies only understand one language: resistance. And this is where we are, a world that used to follow America, now organizing against American instability, a world that used to depend on America, now creating backup plans, a world that used to trust American leadership, now preparing for American threats. That is Trump's legacy in one sentence. So the question isn't whether Trump looks strong, he doesn't. So the question is whether Americans survive this kind of damage before it becomes permanent. Because once trust is broken, you don't just fix it later. You pay for it for years, sometimes decades, and the cost always shows up in the same places: your economy, your alliances, your safety, and your future.